Hi Ansel,
Hey,
first
man.
of all, it's a great honor to be here talking to you.
Thank
My
you.
name is Fernando, like in Diaba's song. I'm from a comic book website called Legião dos Heróis. And do you think that baby is more like a hero or a villain?
Oh, he's a hero.
Yeah.
He's definitely a hero. He's a criminal, but he's a hero.
And as everyone knows, you almost directed Ant-Man in Marvel Studios. And I think that after watching this movie, everyone's just dying to see what you could have done with that character. Would you like to work in another hero or comic book adaptation?
I don't know, it depends really. I mean, people always ask me that, but I think I directed one comic book movie already, and essentially I co-wrote 3. You know, if it was the right thing and I thought I was able to do my own thing or like direct my own screenplay, then maybe. But, you know, in a way, like, sort of Baby Driver is not a superhero movie, but it is almost like its own origin kind of movie. So he is like a hero in a different way. So, I don't know.
It has to be more personal here.
I think it just like, I've written everything that I've directed so far. You know, I think when I was working on that other movie, I was in a position suddenly where I wasn't directing my script anymore, and it was of less interest.
The music's almost like a living character in this movie.
Yeah, it is. You know, the music in this film is really cool because it's not just in the background, it's really in the forefront. And Edgar Wright used the music almost like a music video uses music. All the cutting is to the music, and we did a lot of choreography to the music too. A friend of mine saw it and said, it's almost like watching a 2-hour music video. So it's really a unique film for that reason.
And were you able to relate to the character since you're also passionate about music, right?
Yeah, man.
You do your own mixes and this stuff?
Yeah, you know, I think that's probably one reason why it worked out and Edgar wanted me to play the role, was because music is such a big part of my life too. Even with the song Easy, like I remember that song on my first iPod when I was a kid. I remember like I moved to a new school when I was like 9 years old. And I remember sitting on the school bus and listening with my earphones and the old iPod, the big, you know, white one, and listening to Easy. And looking out the window, and I feel like I was baby when I was younger.
That was kind of personal for you.
Yeah, man, it's super personal.
Nice. And now you're a rising star in Hollywood. And how it was to you acting with legends like Kevin Spacey, Jon Hamm, and Jamie Foxx?
It's so crazy, man. You know, these are like such cool guys, and they are so nice too. You know, they're not, you imagine them being very serious, but they're guys who really enjoy life. And there's one reason why they're so successful, is that they're so great and generous, and hopefully one day I'll have a career like theirs and there'll be a young guy on set. And if I can be anywhere near as nice to that young guy as they were to me, that would be my way of paying it back, because I can't believe how great they were to me.
And how it was to work with CJ Jones? Did you already knew sign language?
No.
Was that a challenge for you?
Not at all. It was really cool. You know, I remember when Edgar was casting the role, I was so glad when he told me he was actually casting a deaf actor. Because, you know, CJ is perfect for the role. He does so well. And then doing the scenes with him in sign language, it felt very authentic. And I felt like he was so helpful to have on set, as almost like, you know, my mentor in terms of how to do these sign language scenes. And he, after a take, he sort of, everyone, even Edgar, would sort of look to him and say, were you happy with the sign language in that take? Was Ansel good? Because we really wanted to respect the language and make sure we did a good job with it. And I know that whole ALS community, the sign language community in America, is very happy and pleased with the sign language.
That's awesome. So when I talk about Baby Driver, the first thing that comes to my mind is the soundtrack. It's absolutely amazing. And the way that everything happening in the screen fits with the score, it's awesome. But I think that the real magic is behind the cameras, when you have to set everything to work perfectly well on the screen. How was the setting? How was you make everything work so well?
Well, it was always the idea of the movie was to sort of do something where it's all choreographed to the music. So I knew that, like, in the sort of the planning of it, that even just in the writing process, I would try and write everything to the music so I'd have a good sense of how it was going to work. And then in the pre-production, I was working with a choreographer and stunts and the camera department to sort of this, and editing. Everybody's just trying to shape the film because you knew what the music was going to be, so then you could sort of try and get an idea of how long it was going to be.
And we have a lot of action in this movie. We have car chase scenes, gunfire. How was your preparation for this role, and how were the stunt scenes? You really are the devil behind the wheel?
Yeah, man. I hope so now. You know, I did a lot of preparation. I got to work with our stunt driver, Jeremy Fry, who was really incredible. And I think actually we're going to Mexico and I'm going to see him there, which I'm pretty excited about, and hopefully do some more stunt driving again. Because I had so much fun doing it. I think I've sort of gotten the bug now, and all I want to do is every time I drive, I sort of have my hand on the e-brake like I'm ready to pull it if anything goes wrong.
You really feel like a superhero in this moment,
Yeah, man,
right?
I feel like I have a power, like I'm a good driver. I do it to my friends now at home too. Because I actually got the Subaru from the movie. The red car in the beginning of the film, I own now. The studio gave it to me. And I drive around in it and I feel like I'm baby.
Well, like I said, I'm from a comic book website, and with all these superhero movies around, I had to ask you, would you like to portray a superhero in a movie, and which one?
Depends on the hero, you know, and depends on the director. I think my favorite superhero movies is the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, and obviously like the Heath Ledger Joker or the Tom Hardy Bane. Those guys did such an incredible job bringing those characters to life. And if I could be in a superhero movie like that, I'd play anybody. And it would be cool to be a villain. You know, also in the first Batman, Scarecrow.
Yeah.
That guy. What is that actor's name again? British actor. He's so great. He's in all those Christopher Nolan movies. You know,
Yeah.
he's so cool and weird looking in such a cool way. So yeah, man, I'd like to be a villain. It'd be fun.
Well, can I try a little game with you?
Yeah.
Well, you say in previous interviews that this inspiration of Baby Driver came when you're listening to Bell Bottoms and realized that that could be a perfect song from a car chase scene.
Yeah.
Release. But I have other songs here, Brazilian songs, and I want you to say to me in what kind of scene
Okay.
do you see this? Well, this is the first one. I will play it, then I will explain.
Okay.
Say. You have an idea in what kind of scene you could do this?
I mean, maybe there's a scene where a band is playing that song. You know, it could be something where, like, you could have a sequence where, you know, somebody's playing it in the street and, like, an action scene could be breaking out around them. So maybe there's something like that.
Well, this is the opening theme of a Brazilian sitcom that talks about a family that's always fighting, but after all, they love each other. Well, this is another one. Any ideas?
No.
Well, it's very hard to explain. It's about a girl who goes to an orgy and comes back home without a breast. But her boyfriend is very happy because he wasn't there.
Because he was what?
He wasn't there in the orgy. They were huge.
You've
in the
already
90s.
told the story of what happens in the scene. I mean, it's like a story song, so maybe that is the story.
Okay, so for the last question, there's another chapter in the baby's story, or do you think it ended the way it has to end?
I don't know, actually. I mean, when I wrote the script, I hadn't thought about a second one, but in the making of the movie, when it was kind of like asked of me, I thought, well, you know, I like these characters and I like the idea of like taking this idea a little further, so I wouldn't rule it out. I think it would be down to me to come up with a screenplay that really works, you know?
Yeah, that would be awesome. I hope to see you again in a comic book adaptation or even an electronic music concert, who knows.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
I feel
man.
like I did really badly on that music quiz.
No.